Hi, I'm Alexa and welcome to my garden here in Northeast Ohio. We are in the second week of September already, and it's really hard to believe that it's already this time of year. Seasons are changing. It's coming into fall, which is really my favorite time of the year. My birthday's in September and we have those cooler mornings, cooler nights, and the days are still really warm, so you kind of get a mix of both, and I just love this time of year. It is amazing and the garden is absolutely stunning right now. For some reason, when I think of fall, I start to think of getting the garden cleaned out and starting to put things to rest. But really, I mean, we are not even there yet. And I'm looking around and looking at all the flowers and looking at all the plants, and I'm like, everything is just so beautiful and in bloom and green, and we still have a lot of time left in this gardening season. I'm located in Northeast Ohio, which is Zone 6A, and our first frost date this year is estimated to be around October 13th. And even though that's our first frost, usually our Octobers are still on the warmer side, really until like the very end of the month, or early November is when we're gonna experience some of our first snowfalls. So in this video, we are going to walk through my garden, kind of give it its final summer gardening season look, see where everything's at. I have been starting to tear some things out, but right now, it's probably as beautiful as it's going to get. So I'm really excited to share that with you. And while we're walking through, we're gonna harvest some things today. I have tomatoes ready for harvest, lots of peppers. I even have some really big squash that we're gonna pick. And we're just gonna kind of take this time to enjoy this beautiful garden space. So I am so happy you're with me. If you're new to my channel, please make sure to press the subscribe button so you can see all my new videos as they are posted. And if you are returning, thank you so much for your support. It really means a lot to me that you continue to come back, watch me. It's just like love envelops you in this place. So that's what I want for you guys too. And if you are wanting to know more about how to grow in this kind of way and get ideas, this is the place for you. So come on and let's go do this garden tour. So first, when we walk into the garden, I just wanted to show you this beautiful morning glory plant that I have over my front gate and my arch here. This section of my garden is actually one of my favorites this year. This whole area is a new growing space. I've been through the years trying to carve out and make more garden beds along my fence line. I have a row of tomatoes, and I also had a lot of pole beans in here and cucumbers. Now those have been torn out. The pest pressure got too great, and so we had to get those out. And now I have just like this really lovely row of cosmos growing along there. And I even just put in some cabbage starts for the winter and sowed some peas, and those are starting to sprout now as well. So little cabbages kind of all down the line here, and little peas. So we're getting ready for that fall gardening season time. It took forever for these cosmos to bloom, but I'm so excited now that they are. I love anything pink. So these are great. And then I've got white ones down there mixed in with the yellow sunflowers. This whole strip is just super lovely. Tomatoes are doing okay. We're starting to harvest quite a bit. The plants are getting a little sickly now, but even still, I've got lots of green fruit still growing on these plants. So these are the Jersey Devils, and down there are Big Mama paste tomatoes, and they're just still so big. So lots of tomato action still to come. I just can't get over how big this morning glory has gotten on this trellis here. And at night, this is so pretty because I have a string of lights going along my fence and up this arch here. So we've got the light shining through all of the green foliage at night, and it's so pretty. My mom and I started a new garden project yesterday, and we are filling in the front of my vegetable garden. We're moving perennials to be planted all in the front line of the fence here. So on both sides. And the reason we're doing that is because my actual perennial garden, which is right here behind the house, it's the garden, I think we put it in my second year here, so it's like 5 years that all the plants in there have been growing, and they have gotten so big they need to be thinned out, they need to be spread out. So we're making a new garden space here in front of my vegetable garden, and I'm really excited about how it's coming. Yesterday we spent a lot of time preparing the soil, leveling things out, building some areas up, but I'm excited how it's going to be laid out. And we've got everything, we're placing everything strategically so that in the back line is going to be all of like the spring flowers that will bloom first, and then we'll put a row in the middle of everything that comes in the middle of summer, like lilies, and then in the front will be all the flowers that bloom in the fall. So we're going to kind of layer it so that way there's always color up here along the fence line. And then I've got like yuccas that are on the back, which those bloom in the summer, but when they do bloom they get really tall, so I want them on the fence line, you know, for that height. And then down here where the gate is, we dug this down, I think it's about 4 inches down, and we use a lot of this soil to build up the garden space here in the front. But I have some concrete slabs that are like way in a pile way back in the woods, so we're gonna hopefully get those brought up at some point with the help of some machinery, and we're gonna get this laid so it'll be kind of like a patio style area, so a little step down, but with the blocks and stuff, once they're laid it'll be about even with the ground, and this will just be a really nice entryway into the garden. So even when the summer garden is done, we find ways to keep ourselves very busy and make new garden projects. I've been wanting to do this for a while. It's just, we had such a hot summer with very little rain. I was totally apprehensive about moving any of my perennials when it was so hot, but we are getting a lot of rainfall now. So it's a good time to get this in, and usually the fall is when you want to move your perennials anyway. If you want to transplant anything, thin anything out, give some to your friends, now is the time to do it in the fall. That way it gives them time to get their roots established before that killing frost comes, and then next spring everything is established, ready to go, and you should have some really beautiful plants. So last month in August, I took some tomato suckers, rooted them in water, and then I planted them in these grow bags here. I've got 2 tomato plants in each of these bags, which, you know, may be enough, but it's a pretty big grow bag. These are 10-gallon bags, so I stuck 2 tomato plants in it, and these, my hope for these were so I could have some fresh tomatoes in the fall once all of my other tomatoes were done producing, and they're starting to get some blossoms. So I'm really excited about that, to have fresh tomatoes in October. And those will also be in my greenhouse here. So I put them in the grow bags because I wanted to be able to move them into my greenhouse once it got cold. So that way my hope is that I will get some extension off of tomatoes through October. Like I said, our first frost is about October 13th. So them being in my greenhouse, they should be fine. And I'll move those out in a couple weeks. So coming up on the first stop of our harvest today is going to be this tromboncino squash that I have growing up over my arch trellis here, and I have it growing on both sides. The plants haven't done super well. I think it's just because the soil needs more amending to support a heavy feeder like a squash in here. But I have gotten a couple good ones. I actually already have one in the house. I've got these 2, which we're gonna harvest today. There's a butternut squash growing on this one. And this one's got a little bit of time left. So the thing with tromboncino squash is that when you harvest it, get out of here, leaf, you want it to be a nice, dark, kind of tan color. This one's still got quite a bit of green on it. But compared to these ones, they're kind of like a tannish orange color. These are ready to be picked and taken inside to cure. So when you're harvesting your squash, you definitely want to use some kind of pruning shears of some sort. You want to make sure you have a good stem left on the top of your squash. I'm gonna have to go around to the other side to get this. And now we have a giant tromboncino. So I have a lot of good stem left on there, and that's just gonna help protect it so nothing gets inside of it while we let this cure and store in the house. So these things last a really long time. I have one in my dining room still from a year ago that I harvested in 2021, and it still is fine. It's not rotting. Now that'll be the first one I eat before I get into these ones, but in my experience, tromboncino has been great to store. I use it like a butternut squash. I like to roast these. I cut them into sections and roast them in the oven till they're soft, scoop out all the flesh and puree them. And I like to make a soup. So it's like a butternut squash soup, but it's a tromboncino. So it's really cool. It's super fun to grow. I've been growing these for a few years. I really think they're awesome. And they're really great conversation starters too, because when people come visit my garden, they're like, what is that? How do you get your squash to grow like that? I'm like, it's the variety, you know? And it's really interesting, and let me know if you ever grow tromboncino, what you think of it. And so since I'm out here and I harvested those tromboncinos, I actually just noticed that I've got peas growing at the base of this trellis. I forgot that I put in pea seeds. So I think I'm actually just going to take this plant out. Otherwise, I'll probably just forget and it'll be on there a long time. So now I can get all of these pea shoots that have fallen over and redirect them to the trellis so that they can start to grow up that. So they will get a lot more light now. It's funny, all the squash bugs don't know where to go now that I ripped up that squash. The butternut that I'm leaving out so that can finish curing. This I'm gonna leave so it can finish up, and then that one there too. But while I'm still on the topic of the tromboncino, let me show you what a really healthy one looks like. So this plant here is right next to my compost pile, which I've got chicken manure in there, all kinds of bedding, all of the stuff from the garden. The plant looks really good now. I've got some beautiful fruits on there. Lots of new ones starting to grow. Like this is one plant. It's crazy the amount of food that is growing on this. That's 4. Numbers 5 and 6 are down here. So these started some time ago. So they are huge. Number 7. I mean, look at this. That thing is massive. So it looks like we've got numbers 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12 here, if they all make it and grow, which they appear to be. This one here, I don't think got fertilized. I'll rip that off, but this one's growing. These ones still look good. And the leaves are nice and green. They have really pretty variegation on them. I mean, this plant is just doing fantastic. You know, these squash plants, they are heavy feeders. They need a lot of nutrition. They're getting it from this compost pile, and this one plant is just going crazy. I'm so excited for it. I haven't had much luck growing a lot of really good squash the last few years. The pest pressure is intense here, and I just don't get a good yield. So a friend of mine told me yesterday that she was told if you want to get rid of your squash vine borers and your squash bugs and all that stuff, like, you need to not grow those plants for like 2 to 3 years, and that will help kind of kill everything off and prevent them from coming back. So I'm toying around with the idea. I don't know what I'm gonna do yet. Would you not grow squash for 3 years just to have an organic pest-free garden? And there's always that chance that it won't work and they'll come back anyways. I don't know. What would you do? So let us continue on the tour here. So this trellis is done. Let's take a look at the next trellis. So if you've been following my garden tours this season, this is my loofah gourd, and I didn't think that it was gonna do anything, and it is doing the thing now. It is doing the thing really well. I've got these beautiful spindly vines hanging down. It looks so pretty and magical. We've got lots of pollinators in here, flowers, and a loofah here, loofah here, loofah there, loofah there, loofah up there. So those are five loofahs growing on this trellis right now. Complemented with some volunteer cherry tomatoes that are nice and mushy. I'm just gonna throw those down. We had some rain today. I have not been very prudent on picking the cherry tomatoes, but I'm hungry, so I'm gonna have a little snack. I think there's something kind of magical about having your little cherry tomato snack under a loofah tree. I started this plant in like February in my house, and even when I transplanted it out in May, it took forever. It took forever. It wasn't until third week of August that it actually started to take off, and now it's beautiful. This plant will stay until the frost kills it, because these loofahs that I have, they're gonna need some time to finish growing. They are nowhere near close. I mean, these just came out this week and they grew quite a bit in a week. Loofahs have such a unique smell too. I'm not quite sure how to explain it, but they have their own unique smell. In this bed I have little baby carrots growing. You can see all the little carrot sprouts there. More good stuff for the fall garden. Carrots can be left in the ground even after frost, so I like to grow carrots in the fall and leave them in the garden. That way I can come out and just harvest as I need them. The earth will act as a refrigerator for my carrots. Same with beets. A lot of root vegetables you can leave in the ground after frost, and they often taste better at that time too. So growing carrots and like rutabaga and turnips, beets, all of those things are great for your fall garden into the winter. In my tunnels are more fall veggie stuff, so while we're on that topic, we can take a look at these. So in here are a cabbage variety called the Jersey Wakefield cabbage, and they are looking very nice. They're growing really good. I started these seedlings in July, so now we're in the second week of September and get an idea of how big those have gotten so far. And the idea is we want these to be big enough by that first frost that they will be able to handle the cold. In the second bed, I've got Brussels sprouts. So there's a nice Brussels sprout seedling, one back there. But I also have some kohlrabi and beautiful red cabbage and collards that I planted this spring, and these weren't ready to come out. I mean, I trimmed them way down. There's a kohlrabi that's been left in there quite a while. I probably should pick that. But these collard greens have been doing really nicely, and so I just cut them down. The leaves were damaged quite a bit from pests, and I would just lay that back down, so a chop and drop, and they've grown all new leaves. They look beautiful. Let's grab this kohlrabi while we're thinking about it. This is from my spring garden, but this one must have been smothered underneath the collards because it's actually a pretty good size for being in there all through the summer. What's in here? This is a very odd, I think this is a rutabaga. What in the world? Oh my gosh, that is a malfunctioned rutabaga. This is one plant. Oh, this looks so awkward. What the heck? What is going on here? Wow, that's well, that could be a lot of things. I mean, I'm sure you guys can come up with some ideas on this is interesting. I've been eyeing up this red cabbage for a little while. My red cabbages didn't get very big. None of them did. Still really pretty. What else? We've got ourselves a nice hot pepper. I think this is an Inferno banana pepper. We got some chili peppers here. I don't know why I grow these. I mean, I grow them and then I don't ever do anything with them. They just dry out because I can't eat them. Lots of beautiful basil in these beds. I've been harvesting beets as well. This one, oh, this one's ready. I love the color. And in this last covered bed, I have more cabbage. So red cabbage starts in here. So looking over here at the tomatoes, I do see lots of tomatoes that are ready for harvest. Some of them have fallen to the ground, so we're gonna get those. Some of my favorites, indigo apples. Love these. I was out of these. These black strawberry cherry tomatoes are really good, and don't get me wrong, and like, they're beautiful, they taste good, but they take forever to ripen. I've been waiting. I mean, I've had a couple of them, but a lot of these are still, they're like just starting to ripen, like the whole plant. It's just been taking a really long time for these, but they are super pretty. And they taste really good. Ah, oh no. All my tomato plants have been falling over. I have been a little behind on harvesting. These are the Isis candy cherry tomato, and a lot of them are all splitting from the rain. It doesn't take long for these ones to split. I've got these blue cream berries. They're on the ground. They're starting to rot. And then I have like berry crazy cherry back here, which this one's looking pretty good. There's not a whole lot. There's some on the ground, but it's just been really hard to keep up with everything. So if you're interested in more tomato related content, I will have my 2022 tomato taste test review videos out sometime this fall. I have everything recorded. I have done all the taste testing. I have 22 different tomato varieties, and in that video I will go over each tomato, give a little give a preview of what they look like, and then talk about how they taste. And it's a really cool series. I did it in 2021. I had 40 varieties growing in that year. So you can go back and check out those videos. I have a playlist and I'll link it all below. And I'm gonna do the same for 2022. So it's just gonna take me a little bit to get everything edited for that video. So make sure to subscribe so you can see the 2022 tomato taste test review this fall. So now let's take a look at some of the peppers we have. In here I've got Corbachi peppers, and they are starting to really produce. I like to pick them when they're red. I mean, I could pick them green, but for me, I prefer the red. And these are actually pretty spicy. Not as spicy as like a chili pepper, but it's up there in heat. It's just by this time of year, some of the garden beds get really hard to tame, and I just don't try and fight with it too much. Oh, I broke that one. In here are Bequino peppers. So like they're little yellow teardrop peppers. And these are actually pretty sweet. They have a little bit of a zing to them, but I can eat these like snacking on them. They're not spicy to where you have to take a minute and catch your breath. So these are really good. They are a little tedious to have to like pick off and de-stem and all that kind of thing. So I usually just kind of snack on them. I was thinking of trying them blistered to see, you know, how would that be? And so I'm interested, if you like grow little peppers like these, what do you like to do with them? Because I need more recipe inspiration if I'm going to continue to grow these. Because they're good, but they're just kind of hard to manage since they're so little. Plants are prolific. This is also the time of year when my marigolds take over. I've got, I think this is a Sugar Rush Peach pepper in here. And they're still pretty green. I'm just waiting for them to turn. This marigold has just taken over this whole area. Actually got two, one here and one here. I really like them because once all these plants come out, these are left in the fall and they're really pretty. But they do take over a space. So these are what I call a red sun sweet peak pepper. I don't know what the actual name is for it because I bought this from Aldi a couple years ago, and it was a pack of red and orange peppers and this shape, and they're sweet, and the brand was Red Sun Sweet Peaks. So I saved the seeds from those, and this is the second year I'm growing plants from those seeds. And they grow a nice sweet orange pepper. I haven't gotten any reds off of them like the ones I bought in the store, but I do get these orange ones and they are really good. They've taken a long time to ripen, so they're just starting to ripen. I'm really excited about it. Growing food from grocery store seeds is possible. Don't let anyone tell you it's not. You may not always get exactly what you purchased, but you'll get something like it. I'm gonna let this one ripen up. The ones on this plant are really nice and big. Look at how big that is. Those just need a couple more days. So more transparency of a gardener with a busy family life. This is my strawberry patch. And you can see my strawberry patch is full of grass. And it's been full of grass pretty much all season. I don't talk about it or share it too much because there's not a whole lot to see other than strawberries devoured in grass. I planted this patch in the spring. They were all new plants. I was kind of in a rush to get them in because I had waited quite some time to get these strawberries planted. And they produced a little bit. It's their first year. I didn't expect much. But the grass did quickly take over, and I had meant to weed them. I had meant to mulch them. I had meant to do all of that. And it just was never high on my list of things to do. And I got to the point where the grass got so high, I'm like, forget it. I'm gonna wait till the grass dies and I'll deal with it later. But if you're feeling bad about your garden, don't, because we are all in different stages of life and we all have different kinds of schedules. So we took the lawnmower to this area to try and like cut down some of this tall grass, but yeah, it's quite a mess in here. But it's okay, it won't be like this forever. We will get the strawberries out. I mean, the plants are still pretty healthy, even though they're covered in grass and stuff. They're still healthy, and they are still sending off runners. So that is one of the fall projects on the to-do list, is to get the strawberries put into a better place and be able to really set them up for success for next year. I'm really excited for this shishito pepper plant. I didn't know if I would get any shishitos this year because the plants were struggling, and it's really starting to take off now. I do like when the shishitos are a little red as well. This one's starting to turn. They kind of go through this like weird ugly stage before they turn red. And I like them a little bit redder. I just think I like to have color on my plate. I don't want everything to be green. So I will give these a few more days before I pick those. And it looks like some of these jalapenos are getting ready. It's a nice one. So this area back here is where all of my garlic was planted. I harvested that mid-July, and then in the same week I went ahead and sowed a whole bunch of squash seeds with the hopes of getting some fall squash, gourds, and all of that. I also have carrots in here, but I'm excited that I have actually quite a bit of squash growing. There's some patty pan in here, zucchini, and I have a yellow crookneck squash, but this variety, I have to look it up, I forget the name exactly, but this is a variety that I got from Baker Creek, and it's a yellow crookneck, but it's like to be stored as a winter squash. It kind of reminds me of the tromboncino, actually. You can see it's like more on the tan side. Oh, there's lots of leaves in here. So I've got several of those growing throughout in here. I think I've kind of like 6 to 8 of them. Just spotted a sweet little strawberry amongst all the weeds. I'm gonna have that right now. Coming up on the to-do list is also harvesting potatoes. In here I have red potatoes, and I have some corn stalks. I had actually planted a lot of corn seeds, but my chickens got in here and scratched most of them up. This is going to be the great corn harvest of 2022, so not a lot on that. And then on the right side of the greenhouse are all of my Kennebec potatoes. So these are just like normal white potatoes, and they are getting ready for harvest. Lots of yellowing, so that's good, but some of these still have a lot of green, so I've just been watching and waiting. I was going to actually harvest today, but we had a lot of rain, and I don't want to harvest potatoes when the soil's wet. So I'm going to let this dry out and see if, you know, anything dies back throughout the week. Can take a look in the greenhouse. Ooh, we got lots of tomatoes ready for harvest. That's good. I believe these are the mortgage lifters here, which they haven't been like super big, but they've been good nonetheless. Got Jersey Devil. These have been huge. Look at this. I have a squash plant growing in here. I don't know what it is. It's some kind of squash plant. No fruits have appeared on it yet, and the squash bugs haven't found it in the greenhouse. I also have some Kajari melon plants in here, which was an experiment to see if they would grow. They've been really slow to get going. I don't think I'm gonna get any fruit off them. This is pretty. Oh yeah, lots of tomatoes ready for picking in the greenhouse, and the plants are still fairly healthy. I've been wanting to take out the tomato plants, honestly, to give some of the peppers more light. I've got a lot of, these are the Carmen Italian pepper. These are really good. They're nice sweet pepper. I prefer these over bell peppers, and they will turn red when they're fully ripe. So they're still pretty green. The peppers have taken a while to get going, but I think it's just because the tomatoes have been crowding them out. So I think I'm just gonna let the rest of these get ripe and then maybe get them out. I don't know. They're still setting fruit. Look at this. There's still fruits being set. It's so hard because the plants are pretty healthy, so I'm just not getting the pepper yield I wanted because, well, the tomatoes have really taken over. This is a tripel crop, but yeah, lots of growth even now. I mean, a lot of things are kind of falling down, but I've been very pleased with how the production has let in the greenhouse. This is my habanada plant, so these are just starting to ripen. Yeah, lots of crowding. A lot of the peppers have kind of like fallen over into the aisleway because they just don't have enough space to grow. I planted everything too closely. It was the first year growing in a greenhouse, and I didn't know how things were gonna do, and the spacing, I thought I could get away with it. You know, I'll plant everything really close. But I think I may have hindered myself, at least with the peppers. So I think next year I'm gonna focus one side for tomatoes and one side for peppers, and hopefully be able to get a lot more. Okay, so I took a little break from the garden tour to get some garden work done because I was like, I can't let this go any longer. So I actually trimmed out all of the tomato plants here in the greenhouse to try and give my peppers some more time to grow. So from last frame, it's so much cleaner in here. There is all my mess. I did leave, you know, I left the main runner, and if there was fruits like there, and there's still a bunch of fruits on this plant, you know, I left those. I'm not going to cut all the tomatoes out, especially if they're still growing. But it's so much more open now in the bottom section, and all of these peppers are going to have light to really start taking off and growing, hopefully. And while I was cutting everything, I found I had one bell pepper, which is amazing because I didn't think any of my bell pepper plants actually grew, and I'm very excited to see that one pepper. You can see how spindly the plant is just because they've not been getting enough light. Like these pepper plants, this is a pepper plant, like it is so tall. It's probably like 4 feet tall. So they've just been stretching, trying to get sunlight, and now they have a lot more sunlight. And really, I probably should have done that a long time ago, but time, right? And got a huge basket of tomatoes. Did have some casualties as I was pruning, but they'll be okay. They will ripen inside, some of these green ones. But look at this. This is a really nice one I just harvested. And now I would like to show you my favorite part of the garden in 2022. Ready? Ah! I love this space so much. So this is an obelisk, and on top of it is a morning glory flower. Actually, it's several morning glory flowers. I sowed a lot of seeds around that, and it has completely taken over the entire obelisk, and it's just amazing. It makes me feel like seeing that with all my trellises and everything, like this is my secret garden. Like I feel like it's just my little getaway, my secret hideout. No one can find me here. And this is just, love it. So down in this section of the garden, I have amaranth and sweet potato, couple, looks like zucchini squash plants that didn't really do very well. My plan for this fall is to scrape out all the wood mulch and throw it into my pathways. And then I am going to be putting down a cover crop. I'm hoping by using a cover crop that I will be able to add nitrogen back into my soil with a green manure. I haven't done a cover crop in the past, so it'll kind of be an experiment for me. Ooh, this is lemon basil. Oh, it smells so good. And the cover crop I ordered has 5 different seed types in it. I know it has rye, clover, I think hairy vetch, and some other things. I think that that's going to help amend this soil a lot. Just spring, I'm going to have to cut it back a few times, and then all of that basically just gets tilled back into the soil. So I'm going to try that to see if I can restore this space. It's a really lovely garden bed, and I want to make sure I can grow a lot in it and maximize everything I'm growing. But at least we are having some growth. I mean, the sweet potatoes are growing, they're flowering. This is that lemon basil. Oh, it smells so good. You know, the amaranth has done pretty good. It's starting to get kind of buggy now, so might start chopping that back. But Oh, it looks like the squash bugs have found this acorn squash, itty bitty thing. And then in the circle area, I still have like all my kale from the spring. It did take a beating over the summer and it's coming back now, especially this dwarf curly kale. And then I'm really excited about the okra that I'm getting, finally. I planted this later in the year. And getting some okra pods, beautiful okra flower. The sunflowers have petered out. My boys will like to chop all the sunflowers down and use their stalks as swords, so I know they're looking forward to doing that. This cucumber plant looks like it's ready to be pulled out. Oh, there's a little guy in here. Uh-oh! Trellis down. Nice. This is my fall garden greens box, and this is up right by our house. And in here I'm growing all of the greens that will make it through, you know, most of the winter time. So what's nice about this is that it opens and I can prop it up like that and be able to just go in here and harvest the greens that I need. Got some basil in here and close it up. This way we can have salad greens probably through most of the winter. When it gets really cold, I'm going to wrap the bottom part in plastic to keep the heat in and keep the frost out. But I'm really excited about this. We repurposed this bed. It was used for my strawberries that I had in here previously, and those were several years old. So we went ahead and took those out and did this, and I'm really excited to get a lot more use out of this bed growing greens through the winter. We have chicken wire in here because my chickens would otherwise like to get in here and scratch in this. So my mom actually built the frame and had it in her garden for a few years, and then she gave it to me, and Carmen was able to make this top that opens up like this, and so it's on hinges there. And then he also added hinges around the back side, here and here and here. And so this whole unit will actually tip backwards. You can see that, kind of hard to do with one arm. But this whole thing will tip backwards, so I can get in there and plant and do whatever I need to do without like having to bend down in. And then these are like little back window things that can come off too. So I know that he did record some footage of when him and the boys were working on doing all of this. Maybe we'll get that out there. But this will allow us to have fresh greens close to the house and ready to go at any time. So I'm really excited to see how this works out. Hi, Key. So that's the garden as it stands in early September. Full of beauty, full of some mess, full of food, full of lots of hard work that we have put into this place all season. So I hope that you have been inspired by today's garden tour and harvest. We will have lots of good stuff preserved for the winter when all of this has been put to sleep. So please like this video, subscribe to my channel, and leave me a comment below letting me know what your favorite part of the garden is and how is your garden doing this year. It's a beautiful day no matter where you are, no matter what the weather is like, no matter what's going on in your life. Take time and do something you love. Clear your mind, open your heart, and we'll catch you on the next video. Bye. Ooh, this is really heavy. This is our harvest today. Oh yeah, I got tromboncino squash somewhere. I need to go find those.